TIL Emma Gibson, frozen as an embryo in 1992, was born in 2017 to a mother born in 1991. Happy for the family now, but that's messed up. They weren't told until after the baby was implanted that it was frozen for 24 years, or that no embryo child had been born alive before. They basically signed her up for an experiment without her consent and put her at a higher risk of a miscarriage without telling her. Yes, we don't have all the medical facts that are private, but if they are that amazed it was successful, then she should have been informed that her odds of actually having this baby were a lot lower so she could make an informed decision. This article actually neglects one fact. This specific mother has had two embryos from 1992, both genetic siblings donated simultaneously. Emma is the older one, born in 2017, setting a record as a 24-year-old embryo, while her younger sister Molly was born in 2020, setting a new record as a 27-year-old embryo. Here's an article from shortly after Molly's birth. It's an odd world playing these games. Then you get people doing melting pots of having triplets of 3 different ethnicities to the female genetics. Black market eggs. Bonus points if the female dumps the infants, as there is no genetic tie to prove the female carried the infants. Attempting to screw over the male genetic downer. Gross that we view it as normal to intentionally sever connections between people and their genetic family. Doesn't matter what the adults say to justify it, the child will always wonder why it was considered so damaging, threatening and unimportant for them to meet and know their genetic relatives from a young age. I was a dairy farmer herd tester, and over the years heard stories of farmers finding a long-forgotten straw of semen in their liquid nitrogen tanks and deciding to use it, for grins and giggles. Little Emma is taking things to a whole new level, though. Yeah, we talked about this in the time limits of using frozen sperm being abolished on our podcast if people want to listen. It's interesting but also doesn't really matter. Aging starts once one is born, I assume. Not before. Would be funny if the kid has an affinity for early 2000s culture though. It's pretty terrible that the hospital and parents release the baby's full name and date of birth. An involuntary invasion of the child's privacy for the rest of her life. Huh. I wonder how long a frozen embryo is viable for. Like, can we freeze one and then let it cook a few centuries later and see if there are any noticeable differences? This reminds me of the Netflix series Altered Carbon, where the protagonist's consciousness has been on ice for decades and he gets re-sleeved into a new body. People ask me if I remember the 80s. I tell people I was conceived in the 80s and born in the 90s. This girl's version of my joke will be much better. My mom birthed me at 27 and I birthed my son at 27. My son was also born 2 days before my mom's birthday. Lol, weird coincidences. Wait, so don't pre-livers have to believe this is a 31-year-old baby? If it's been a human life the entire time while frozen? I read the title and thought, why the hell did they implant an egg in a 16-year-old? Then I realized it was 26. I'm old. How does this affect her SS retirement date? Can she get a driver's license soon? How about jury duty? So many questions. What's up with them freezing embryos back in 1992? This is the 4th child from that year I have heard of. Oh great, here they go again with another 90s remake. It's Encino Man not Encino Woman, obligatory S. For parents who love the idea of severing a child's connection with their genetic family, this is the dream. So I see you've been listening to Box of Oddities as well. I just listened to that episode. So if I'm doing the math and logic right, a Republican thinks this is a 31-year-old? We acknowledge you're a 90s child, but we don't grant you the title of millennial. There are going to be some weird mother-daughter conversations in a few years. So where is Lady who donated the embryo? How old was she? Is she still alive? I don't want to be a prude, but I think one is simply too young to have a kid. Aren't they finding a lot of health problems with frozen embryo children? This reminds me of I'm my own grandpa. So to an anti-choicer, is Emma 31 years old or 6? Don't answer that. Switch their DOV and you're on your way to Twilight Zone royalties. How can the embryo survive be used after such a long time? How do they prevent freezer burn? Asking for my ice creams. They named her Emma after Emma Frost from Marvel Comics. Have they thawed her out yet? Or is she still frozen? If life begins conception, this infant is 31 years old. That's baby's poses so early 90s. Dead giveaway.